Right, in this next podcast, we'll look at the reasons why Stalin became dictator of the Soviet Union in the years after Lenin's death. Lenin died in 1924, and in his will and testament, he had claimed he had made a number of statements about other members of the inner sanctum of the Communist Party, and this group worked in a part of the Communist Party known as the Politburo, the political bureau. And in that will and testament, he gave his opinions on the other key players within the Communist Party. And in particular, he gave warning to one member who had risen to become the party secretary, whose name was Joseph Stalin. He said that Comrade Stalin had used the power as party secretary to his own advantage, and that his manners and both his manners and his intent cannot be trusted. And Lenin did not want Stalin to become the next de facto leader of the Communist Party. Upon the death of Lenin, Stalin made very sure that that will and testament was buried very deep and not brought out into the public domain till long after he became leader. How did he do this? Well, firstly, we need to understand that Stalin had become very powerful because he took on a job within the Communist Party that was not a popular job to begin with, party secretary. Most of the other key leaders were more flamboyant and did not see themselves as needing to get themselves involved with the administration and the machinery of the party. Stalin saw this role, however, in a different light. He had a very good memory. His nickname within the party was Comrade Filing Cabinet, which was meant to be a term of abuse, but actually it says something about the man. Great memory, a great eye for detail, and a great bureaucrat. And what that enabled him to do is to use the party machinery, the administrative systems within the party, to his own advantage. So he began setting the agendas for the key meetings, and the agendas that the items that he wanted on those agendas were raised further up the meetings for discussion. He would oversee the appointments of people who are loyal to him within the party be appointed. So you can see that this party secretary role was to grow and grow under him until it became essentially, if you were party secretary, you had control over the Communist Party, which indeed really by the late 1920s he did. But there are other factors as well that we need to take into consideration. The main, well, should I say, the favourite to become the leader of the Soviet Union on the death of Lenin was, of course, Leon Trotsky. Leon Trotsky was a former Menshevik who had helped the Bolsheviks seize power in 1917. He had negotiated the peace with Germany, and he oversaw victory in the Civil War. Great speaker, could work with Lenin, but what happened? Why do we never see Leon Trotsky becoming the leader of the Soviet Union? Stalin. Well, actually, there's two things. You can actually blame Leon Trotsky himself. Stalin, for example, played Leon very well. He made sure that Leon Trotsky did not come to Lenin's funeral. He told him the wrong date, so he came a day late. Trotsky also had a different ideological belief to Stalin as well. Stalin was very much in the belief that for Russia to become strong, for the Soviet Union to be strong, the role of communism needed to be consolidated, or communism itself needed to be consolidated within the Soviet Union before there was any attempt at a worldwide revolution, whereas Trotsky believed that actually it is the role of all communists to ensure that the revolution continues until all the world is under communist under communist control. He called that worldwide revolution. Stalin had a different doctrine. He called his communism or socialism in one state. So what we see is two different camps emerging, supported by two different leaders, with two different takes on communism / Marxism. So Trotsky's belief alienated him from some other members of the party. Trotsky was vain and felt he did not need to gain the support of other key members within the Communist Party, and that's where he was wrong. What Stalin did is he went to other key players who could have been potential leaders, and there were those people on the left of the party, known then as Zinoviev and Kamenev. Make sure you get those spellings in the books. he used those two as allies. And how did he do that? Well, he told them that actually the will and testament was not that flattering about you two either, Kamenev and Zinoviev. And by the way, those two people were key players within the Moscow Soviet and the Leningrad Soviet. And Leningrad is the new name for Petrograd, named in honor of Lenin after his death. So these three gang up on Trotsky. So he's removed from the Politburo in, I think, 1925. He's exiled to Siberia in the late 20s, and by the 30s he's out the scene altogether. He's just dismissed from the party, and he spends the 1930s living in various cities around the world, ultimately settling in Mexico, where he's assassinated by Stalinist agents in 1940. You don't necessarily need to know that for your exam, but it tells us something about the way Stalin was going with his methods of control, and perhaps Lenin was right about this man. So, with Trotsky out the way, Stalin now turned his attention to the other two key rivals, of course, Kamenev and Zinoviev. And to tackle those people, he used the right of the party. Think of the left and right wing of the party. And the people you need to look at here would be people like Bukharin and Rykov. And those people actually were more in favour of continuing with the NEP well into the 1930s. Now, Stalin wasn't necessarily in favour of that, but what he saw in, if he could ally himself with those people to begin with, to remove these two opponents through political mastery, through gaining up people who respected Stalin, who wanted Stalin to be leader, in lower positions within the Communist Party, then bit by bit, these top members, Kamenev could be and were removed from the Politburo, and they were removed by 1927. And that just left. And those people, as those people left, their supporters left the Communist Party, or were pushed out, or were sacked from the Communist Party, and they were replaced by Stalin's stooges, Stalin's supporters. So bit by bit, slice by slice, he's dealing with the opponents. By 1928, he is just left with the right wing of the party, but by now, they are outnumbered by Stalin supporters. And within 18 months or so, they are also removed from power. So Stalin is left, firstly as party secretary, but then essentially as leader of the Soviet Union as well, because there were no other contenders left by 1928-29 to challenge him. And it's from that moment on that we begin to see the imposition of Stalin's dictatorship, which was to transform the Soviet Union over the next decade. So it's quite possible in the exam that you'll get something on Stalin's rise to power. Key things to remember is Lenin's will and testament, how Stalin dealt with that, his importance of the role of party secretary, the vanity of Trotsky, how Stalin dealt with Trotsky, how Stalin dealt with Zinoviev and Kamenev, and then how ultimately this left the right wing of the party, people like Rykov and Bukharin, out in the lurch, and they were quickly done away with as well. An exemplar in political mastery and intrigue at its best. So make sure you know this story for your exam. Typical question would be, describe the key features of Stalin's rise to power. Okay, good luck.